Hello, and thank you for tuning in today. I am talking with Judi Franco, and this is a repeat visit. Judi and I spoke last year in September talking about her gun ownership journey. So, Judi, thank you for being with me today.
It's my pleasure, John. I love that you're calling it a journey.
It is.
Everything's a
It's a real journey for sure, especially coming from New Jersey. So what I want to do real quick is just kind of recap a little bit of what you and I discussed last year to get people up to speed, and then we'll go from there. How's that sound?
sounds perfect.
Okay, so last year, so after the 2022 New York State Rifle Pistol Association versus Bruin decision, you became aware that the laws regulating firearms in New Jersey were going to start to change a little bit, and they were going to change for the better. Um, and your interest, and this is, based on our conversation, you said your interest in firearms maybe came from your natural rebellious nature. And especially since they make it so difficult in New Jersey, it only makes sense. But really, after that, your interest really took off even more due to the rise in anti Semitism that's been going on around the country and in New Jersey. So, back around the spring of 2023, you started your journey to get trained and to become a gun owner. And by summer's end, you had purchased your first firearm. So, does that sound like I hit all of the high notes so far?
You actually know the history of my life better than I know it myself. So yes.
Perfect. Well, I just wanted to make sure that I got all the details right there. Um, okay, so now one of the things that you said you were interested in doing going forward, and this was last year, was maybe getting some of your children and grandchildren involved. And you said that you had a daughter that was kind of interested. You did take shooting before in the past, right? So is there anything new there? Any new developments?
Actually, no, it's been such a busy summer that I have not even been able to be at the range as much as I would like to. But she promised me that as soon as the fall comes around and her kids are back in school, that we're going to do that together. Um, as far as the grandkids go, that's going to be a little bit of work because because there is that their moms, my grandkids moms, both are like, no, kids shouldn't be near guns, and as I think I mentioned to you, that was kind of how I grew up too. So I want them to be comfortable, and when they do feel that way, I will definitely encourage them. But my daughter, yeah, I'm dying for us to go get into that together, to get to
Oh,
the range together.
and then how's about the husband? Because I know he was like kind of on the bubble about this as well. You. Have you gotten him into the fold yet?
So he is actually really, it's funny. For him, it's really the noise from indoors.
Mm-hmm.
He tells me all the time, as soon as you go to I've been so used to shooting in my favorite range that we shoot that, that's where I go. And he's an old man, the noise bothers him. So he always says, as soon as you shoot outside, I will go with you outdoors. So he's kind of interested in it. And I think even more so now, that he sees how comfortable I am and how much I enjoy it as a hobby. So yeah, I think he's going to get into it.
Okay, I think that's perfect. Okay, well,
Yeah.
we could set up that outdoor range thing too pretty easily. I know a guy or two. Um,
Yeah, I you probably do. You got to help me with this, John.
all right, so now we're going to get to the nuts and bolts. When we last chatted, you said, and I'm going to quote you directly here, you said, I want to be able to carry that little baby wherever I'm allowed to carry it, meaning you were going to pursue getting a New Jersey permit to carry. All right.
Yes.
So where are you now? Like we didn't pre discuss this. You and I
No.
spoke back in August, I think it was. Well, no, not in August, it must have been July or June. Where are you
Yeah.
now? So I don't know where you're at. What's your status?
So my status right now is I am currently the holder of a concealed carry weapons permit in New Jersey. And I've had it, I guess, for about a month now, my license. I was so excited that I even had the opportunity to do it. And when I held that little card in my hand, I cannot even tell you, because it was always something that for so many years I thought would be impossible in this state. So
Sure.
yes, I'll be honest with you, I have not had the opportunity to carry yet, but I can. And it was interesting too, because going through the process was so much less daunting than I thought that it would be. Um, and I actually had an interview with the chief of police in my town, which I understand not a lot of towns, not every town does. Do you know about this?
Right. Yes. Yes, I do.
So I asked him, why did I have to do this when my friend who got the license at the same time as I did not have to go through this, and we live in neighboring towns. And he said, some towns just don't do it.
Yeah, and that's the thing about New Jersey law is as much as they're trying to standardize the process, it's not 100% standardized yet. In my opinion, the whole interview process is part of subjective standards, so that should be thrown right out the window because like what
You know,
if
I do agree with you, but it's funny because first thing I thought is I'm gonna be, I was all defensive, and they're gonna ask me why do I want to have the firearm, and I'm gonna say because I want to exercise my 2A rights. And but then when I met with our chief of police, he was so kind and so supportive. And I could tell that he was not one of these guys. And I know that you'll find a lot of them who are so against their citizenry carrying. But he was so supportive that I was like, oh, this is kind of a nice thing, this interview. He goes, listen, he goes, I'm not going to make any comment about whether or not I think it's the right thing to have this interview. He goes, but to be honest with you, I like to know who's carrying in town. And I thought, well, you know what? He's got to protect his guys too. So that was kind of nice to get a face to face with him. And he wants to know who's carrying. I get that. And honestly, I didn't find it offensive, and I thought I was going to.
well, and that's good. I mean, that's like a perfect case scenario. If you are going to have an interview process, you're going to have it with somebody that it's not attacking you or whatnot. And
Oh,
and
I
this
did.
is this is
Oh,
good.
sure that it was going to be, challenging me or whatever. And he was just like, nah, I think he understood that it's the law. They kind of have to do it. And he was just going to follow the law, you
Well,
know?
that's perfect. Well, you talked about a little bit about the process, and you said it was way easier than you thought. So, I guess what was the expectation, and then how did it all go? Because you and I spoke. I think you were in the middle, still waiting on it. So, soup to nuts from beginning to end. You applied, and then how long did you wait? Talk a little bit about that.
So I understand that in some municipalities, it's much longer, but from beginning to end, I went on a Sunday to do my training. I took a 5-hour course, which is extremely comprehensive. I did it at my place. We shoot in Lakewood. They actually, I don't think I could have gotten any better training. And in fact, the chief of police in my town said, "Oh, let me look. Oh, you learned at We Shoot. Okay, like we know you're well trained." And I thought that was really great. I did the course. They give a little written test afterwards. And then that same day, I had to qualify with the firearm that I was using. Interestingly, I asked first, can I qualify with a different gun? Because I don't know why I was so nervous and so scared that I was going to choke that I said, can I shoot? Can I qualify with a 22 instead of my own? They said, why? You're going to be shooting with a 9mm. I said, I know, but I'm afraid. Anyway, so stupid. I had no confidence in myself. Of course, I did it with my own gun, and of course, I was fine. The next day, I submitted all my paperwork, and within a week, I got a call back from my town saying we just had um, a couple of questions, very technical stuff. I left out a signature here, something like that. And I think it was 2 weeks later, they asked me for an interview. I went in a week later. So from beginning to end, the whole process was about a month.
Wow, that's really great. That's good. especially
There
so
are
since,
other,
yeah,
I'm sorry.
no, no,
No, I was
no.
going to say that I spoke to somebody today, happens to be, we were talking about it on the air today on our show. And somebody said he qualified, gave his forms in the next day, and received his permit by email the next day. So he really got it in like 2 days.
Bravo. And that's the way it should be, in my
Yeah,
opinion.
yeah,
you know, but
that right.
you, it sounds like you did better than the expectations, because I remember we chatted and you were expecting to wait much longer. I thought you were going to tell me that, oh, I don't have my permit just yet, but you've got your permit. This is great, Judi. Um,
I
so
think,
congratulations.
thank you. And I think that what was explained to me was they were just so inundated with, applications, that everybody was doing it at the same time. So it was taking a little longer. And in some municipalities, and pardon me if I'm a little cynical, I have a feeling some people aren't so thrilled for their citizenry to be armed. So they really stretch it out. And I heard horror stories where people were waiting months before they got their permit.
Oh
Their
yeah, for sure. Okay, well that's great. You and again, this process went on for you about a little over a year, from starting to learn and then getting your firearm and then committing to get a permit to carry. So you said that the process was easy and everything, that you talked about C Care, which was the class that you took. What We Shoot was their C Care class
Yeah.
to get you up to speed. How would you say, so you took the class, but the class was after you took a lot of training. Now, We Shoot's a top-notch operation. I love the guys over there. Mark's great, Ellie's great, Tony's great. Their instructors are good. Heidi's great. And I'm kind of going out of order here on my questions, but uh, would you say that the training that you received specifically just for the carry was enough to get you through the test? Because you said you were a little nervous, or did you absolutely feel you needed the foundation of the training and everything that you did prior to that? I'm just curious about your feeling on it.
For me personally, I felt much more confident that I had had the training.
Mm-hmm.
However, I know there are plenty of states in this country where you can sign a thing that says, I want a gun, and you can carry one.
Right.
So while I know it's not right for everybody, it was certainly right for me to feel extremely confident in handling a firearm, especially because I had had really no experience with it. I wanted to feel really, really adept before I had my permit. And so I'm thrilled about the training. I wouldn't have done it any other way.
Okay. No, that's great. And I think that's important too, because you were nervous, but you got through it. And once you got through it, wasn't that big of a deal. It is a big deal because let's look at the subject matter, but the actual, now you're done with the exam, wasn't too bad, was it?
I, it was, I encourage people to do it. Even somebody who is on the sidelines, like this is why I keep bothering my husband about it. Because at first he was so against it. And then he was like, really, you think so? And now I'm like, you're on the sidelines. Once on the sidelines, you need to jump in, especially in this state, because that's what made me jump. Because I was like, the minute they give me a tiny bit, the opening of a needle, I am flying through that, because you never know what's going to happen, especially now in an election year. Things could change so rapidly. So I think anybody who's on the fence, that's as good as being in there. Get in there now. And I cannot stress that enough. Things change so rapidly. Get in there now.
I gotcha. And that was going to be one of my questions. Your message to people on the sidelines or thinking about it is just get in there now. Okay, perfect.
Because you don't want to look back and say, I had a slim opportunity. God knows how they make it in this state anyway. I would, as I told the police chief, it's not like there are very many places I can carry it anyway, so you don't have to worry, because New Jersey makes. But yeah, but I do feel like, yeah, dive in now and don't look back and say, I could have and I didn't.
No, perfect. I don't want to take a political turn, so I'm not really doing that here. But there is something that I think we do need to talk about a little bit. So as we discussed, we last chatted was actually September 11th of last year. So this is a little bit of a somber turn, but I think it's an important issue to address and bring up. So something that you said to me that kind of stuck out to me, was you talk about seeing pictures of, say, the Holocaust, and paired with the perception that the Jewish community is made up of pacifists, and you said that it haunts you.
Right.
And you stated that nobody's afraid of us, and you asserted we're not violent people, but we are not weak. I think that's very important to put out there that you said that. Um,
Right.
Taking that into consideration and your own journey, to get armed, what are your thoughts about what transpired in Israel only weeks after you and I last talked? Maybe about the importance of being armed,
I
anything
mean,
there.
it's unbelievable that we met so close to October 7th, because we had discussed this issue about the Jewish community and the rise in anti-Semitism, and that was before October 7th. So now, after the attacks by Hamas on Israel, I of course was emboldened even more, and I went to reshoot just to practice on the 8th of October, and the place was packed, and the guys were like, "Oh my gosh, Judi!" Like, yeah, I said, "What are you guys giving something away?" There were lines, and he said, "We told people don't wait until something bad happens," and people did. And so the first thing I want to say, just uh, related to politics and what you were talking about, is that since we don't know what's going to happen, and the future is always a mystery to us, and especially depending on what happens in an election year, do not wait until something happens. Who would have ever thought of October 7th? And now, I told you before, when I go to the range, I see so many Jewish people who may have been either anti gun or had no opinion at all, who are like, no, never again means really never again. And we're not going to let this happen to us again. So I was emboldened, as I know many, many other Jews were, by October 7th. I'm sorry that it had to be that motivated so many people, but I am thrilled to know that my community is safer today than they were prior to October 7th.
No, perfect. And I know when that was all going on, you and I hadn't talked about it. I just sent you off a couple quick messages, and I'm not digging. There's a lot going on in the world. They said we could chat about this later. So no, I think that's an important perspective. Um, Kind of changing gears a little bit here, get back on the lighter side. And you touched on this a little bit. So We Shoot Experience said you got connected with them through Ellie, right? Ellie's a good friend, one of the
Yes.
owners. And it's been over a year since you started this journey. What would you like to say about them, their service, everything you received there? And even in comparison to when you went shooting, you said before in Florida. Like, what would you say about all of that? And then also, like, we can't forget Heidi as well, because she's been great.
Sure. Um, okay, so first of all, it was also New York State where I had shot before.
Okay.
And I think, it's funny, like when I go to Israel and I see people with a gun slung over their arm in a bikini on the beach, I understand that when people go to shoot for fun in those places, it's understood that you know what you're doing. So when you shoot in a place like Florida, or you shoot in a place like New York, where people have been have had guns forever and are very familiar with firearms, there's almost like this. There's almost they know that there's a familiarity with guns, so they are not going out of their way maybe to treat a beginner the way we shoot does. So
Okay.
that's, I guess, what I'm trying to say is I appreciated so much the guys that we shoot, because it's almost like they know most people coming in there, or at least a very high percentage of people coming in there, are coming in green, as opposed to in these other states where you got a lot of guys who have 400 guns at home and been shooting since they're 10, you know? So I go in there and they treat everybody like it's their first time, you know? So that's why it's not intimidating. And I think that's why I appreciate so much what they do as opposed to, and listen, there's a lot of great ranges out there, and I have no complaints about other places I've shot. I'm just saying these guys treat you as though you're their client. You know what I mean? Like, do you need anything? And let me just, do you mind if I give you a little bit of correction on this? And if you do mind and you go, I got it, man, they'll leave you alone, you know? But there's that expectation that, like, everybody, we're there to help everybody. And that's what I loved about that. I felt like an idiot when I walked in there being completely green. And, you know, there was none of that. They were like, let's take you from the beginning and show you A, B, and C, as opposed to other places that can be intimidating. That's why you said before, I could take you somewhere outdoors. I'm a little bit intimidated by and going anywhere where guys are really die-hard gun guys. You know what I mean? Because I'm still a beginner in a way.
No, don't worry about that. There's some quiet places we can go that are very small and quaint. And if you want to, we can arrange that. But I get it. It can be very intimidating.
There's so
Um,
many, you know, there's a women's club at We Shoot too. The women of We Shoot. And a lot of gun places are very male oriented. So you got to take me to a place that likes chicks.
will do. And I know that you've been getting a little bit involved with that too, right? Not to speak out of school, but you did go into a meeting or no?
I did. I never got to actually attend a meeting.
Oh, you did.
Yeah,
Okay.
right before the summer. Again, the summertime killed my vibe. Um, but I went in to introduce myself because I just wanted to see what it's about or whatever. And I do want to go back there because I do think it's like it's a different experience being a female in that world.
Sure. No, I think they do a great job, and Heidi as well. She worked with you, so I know you had nothing but praise to sing for her the last
Love
time we
her.
spoke.
And Scott, who came in, who's actually one who qualified me
Okay.
from what's the name of the company? With a P. They're going to kill me. Anyway, he comes in at the end and he gives like the little bit of the last part of the classroom training. And then he says, I'm going to qualify you guys now. And I said, well, I'm going to shoot with the 22. And he's like, why are you going to shoot with the 22? I'm like, a little afraid that I'm going to mess up because I'm so nervous. He's like, no, you're not. Get out here. And he really helped me qualify. I don't want to forget to mention him.
Perfect.
He's amazing.
So I was going to ask you again about any other message that you had for the fence sitters, but I think we kind of covered that. I mean, unless you have anything else extra for people who are apprehensive, other than just do it because now's the time. Um,
Well,
yeah, go
I
ahead.
just, I mean, I do think it's important. You can't believe how many people say to me, I think it's great that you did it, but I would never do it. And I really don't understand that mentality. Um, I just do not want people to be afraid. And that's like, I have another piece of advice for people who say, it's good for you, but it's not good for me. Try it once. Try it once because it's a sport too. You know, forget about the fact that, you know, I want to be able to defend myself. I want to be able to exercise my Second Amendment rights, but it's a sport and you'll never know how good you could be at it and how fulfilling it can be. I'm like ready to buy my second gun. How about that?
I love it. I think that's great. Um,
Try it once.
that's great. I think that's great. Is
Yeah.
there anything that you would like to share that maybe I've left out about all of this, big picture, anything in general?
I am extremely concerned about what Phil Murphy, and not to get too political, happens to be our administration here in New Jersey is very anti Second Amendment, probably the worst in the country, second worst, maybe. Um, I'm very disturbed about not just the fact that they're looking for any way to deprive us of our rights, but the fact that people don't know that. So it's one thing if you have a government that is evil, that are dictators, and I'm not calling them evil or dictators. Dennis, I leave that to Dennis. But if you have
I
an overreaching government who wants to take away your rights, that's one
right.
thing. But when you have a constituency that doesn't even know that, that's upsetting to me. So it's important for me to get this message out to people who live in my state and other states that would deprive you of your rights, any of your constitutional rights. Know your rights because they will try to take them away from you the minute you blink. Know your rights. And every day you got to check on these laws in particular, the Second Amendment laws in New Jersey. They're changing every day. Tomorrow they'll tell you can't carry here. The next day they'll say you can't carry here. And it's like the frog in the boiling water. Before you know it, you got no rights anymore. So not only do we have to fight against intrusive governments, but we also have to know they're being intrusive. So many people don't even know that, John.
I concur. I couldn't have said that much better than you did. I probably would sound a little bit more like Dennis and say, hey, they are
I know.
totalitarian. So I appreciate your lighthearted way of explaining that and saying it because it is a serious thing. Well, I
My
think
kids, I had to teach my kids, they thought, I guess they thought it was that this way in every state, you know? And then my son spent time in West Virginia. Wife was in school in West Virginia. So they were there for a few years. And I said, that's the way it really is.
America, yeah, that's like real America. We're behind the Iron Curtain here in New
Yep.
Jersey. Um, well, I think we're just about done. I got everything that I wanted to talk to you about, and I definitely appreciate the time. So,
My
um,
pleasure.
where can people find you? So I know you're on 101.5, Dennis and Judi. I would say Judi and Dennis if I was going to name the show, but it's called Dennis and Judi.
Just because
Um,
he's much older than I am.
it's because he's much older than you. Perfect. So you're out there on Instagram, correct?
Instagram is my big social media platform. It's my only social media platform. And I go by Jersey Judi Franco. Judi has an I. I do have my art page, but you know what? It's under my married name, which is so hard to pronounce. It's so hard to spell. But you can get to everything through my main Instagram page, which is at Jersey Judi Franco. We use it to push the radio stuff. We use it to promote all of our events. Today we did a little live show on there where I showed sort of the inner workings of the radio show. So yeah, follow me at Jersey Judi Franco and find me at We Shoot in Lakewood. And look, you'll see me now on John's video.
As well. And your art, do you want to plug that a little bit too? What are you doing? It looks pretty interesting.
Did you see it?
I looked at it. I saw it. I was like, I was bummed you had a show and you were selling your art and I missed it. So just real quick, I know it's not related to what we're talking about, but I want you to plug you.
Okay, so I started about a year ago using resin and gypsum to make tabletop accessories, trays, plates, bowls, stuff like that. My friends saw them like, oh my God, this is so cool. They're one of a kind artisan gifts for the home or objects for your home if you buy it for yourself. And it's under Judy Chalmay Studio on Instagram. I
Okay.
love it. That's like my second passion. Guns
Okay.
and
Well, I'm gonna have to check that out, and I'm definitely gonna have to see your stuff when it's out there being shown again, and see if I could get some Jersey Judy artwork. Um,
next time I send you a text so that you don't miss it.
I know, I know. Well, Judi, thank you so much for giving me your time and for sharing your story. And I want to make a habit of this. So, if not in a year from now, maybe sometime sooner, but we're gonna
Okay.
want to talk about what's next for Jersey Judi when she's now actively carrying. So we're going to talk about that in the future. How's that sound?
It sounds great, John. I look forward to it.
All right. Thanks, Judi. Have a great day.
You too. Thanks for having me.